all of you and Assalamu alaikum. So today we will continue on the topic that we started in the previous session. That is, uh, the main rationale and the foundation of Islamic finance. And this is the background. This is the foundation that the basic of Islamic finance is that there there is uh, the belief in the divine guidance, that the foremost belief around which all Islamic concepts revolve is that whole universe is created and controlled by one, the only one God has created man and appointed him as his vicegerent. The oneness of God, this concept is known as, specifically is known as Tawheed. That Tawheed means there is only one God and there is no other entity, power, or anything. Every other thing is created. The creator is only one and single and all powerful, all knowing, all the most powerful. And this concept in Arabic is known as Tawheed. Then he has created man and appointed him as his vicegerent on the earth to fulfill certain objectives through obeying his command. Then he has created humans and he has made humans as his, or vicegerent. Vicegerent in Arabic, we use the word khalifa. ये खलीफा बना के इंसान को जो है अल्लाह ने भेजा है. In English, the word is vicegerent. This concept is common in Torah also, in Bible, in Quran. The basics are same, that humans have been created by one and only single God, and He has made humans His vicegerent on the earth to fulfill certain objectives through obeying His command. And the creation of human on this earth is not purposeless. There is some purpose. There is some objective, and there are some verses in Quran that have clearly mentioned the uh, objective of our creation. Just to check whether you are involved in listening or not, if I ask you, can you remember, can you recall any verse where the purpose of creation has been mentioned? Or even if you can't recall, and just mention the purpose as per Quran, as per Islam.
I guess, sir, Surah Asr.
Mohsin is mentioning Surah Asr. Surah Asr is very important surah, and four basic criteria has been mentioned in that surah that are required for being successful. To become successful, there should be four things. Only then a person can be, can avoid failure and become a successful. That is very important surah, very, concise, very to the point. But that is surah is not about the purpose of creation. So anyone else? What is the purpose of our creation as per Quran, as per Islam?
Sir, I think as per the divine guidance is mentioned mostly in Surah Nisa and Surah Baqarah.
In Surah Baqarah, what?
In Surah Nisa, there are mostly mentioned rules and laws that we have to obey.
Hmm. Just 1 minute. Just 1 minute. Meanwhile, you may search what is the purpose of our creation. So can anyone tell me what's the purpose of creation?
Sir, is to worship Allah.
Okay, Nidal Ahmed has written it is to worship Allah. Yes, you are correct, Nidal. So the verse in which this purpose has been mentioned is goes like this: "Wama khalaqtul jinna wal insa illa liya'budun." We have created humans and jinns. As per Quranic concept, jinn is another creation of a god that lives in a parallel world. Uh, the world, I mean, the nearest parallel world is the world of jinns, as per Quran, and these two creations of Allah is only for the purpose of worshipping. So Allah has created us humans on this earth for worshipping. Worshipping, the concept of worship, ibadat, in Urdu, in Arabic, we say the word ibadat. The concept of ibadat is very broad. It's not about the rituals only. Rituals means, for example, praying 5 times is a kind of ritual. And the concept of ibadat is much broader than, just fulfilling the, rituals, performing the rituals. Following the commandments of Allah, following the instructions of Allah in throughout our life, in our eating, in our hearing, in our speaking, in our doing anything. If we are following the guidance in that matter, we are basically performing worship. So the whole life is a kind of worship. The whole life of human can be a worship, even if he is earning money, even if he is doing business, even if he is marrying someone, even if if these are all branches of life, all activities that a person does uh, in his life or her life can be worship if he follows or if she follows the commandments and guidance of Allah. So that is one purpose, worship of God. Worship of God is one purpose. Another purpose that has been mentioned of the creation in Quran, in Surah Mulk, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةَ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. We have created life and death to test you. أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. To test you who is doing good deeds. So we have been put in this situation on this earth and we are being tested. We are being tested. This is an examination. Whether what is our conduct, what is our behavior, and there is only two way. Uh, uh, One is the way of gratitude, and another way is the way of ingratitude. Imma shakirum wa imma kafuram. And both, I mean, we have been given this choice of choosing our path. If we can choose the right path, and we can also do the wrong things. So this is our test. So these are two verses in which the purpose of creation has been mentioned very clearly. In one verse, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ, that our purpose is worshipping the supreme God. And in another verse, it has been mentioned that I am testing humans and checking who is doing good deeds. So these commands are not restricted to some modes of worship only, called religious rituals. They, on the contrary, cover a substantial area of almost every aspect of life. Every aspect of life. What I have observed, some people who are not familiar with the Islamic concept, when they see someone asking a mufti about good or not, so they just wonder. I mean, why he is asking these matters from religious scholar? So the basic thing is that we are bound by the commandments, by the commands of Allah, and we have to follow the commands in every aspect of life. Every aspect. I mean, there is no aspect of life which has not been covered either by Quran or Hadith or Hadith. I mean, the sayings of the Prophet, peace be upon him. So we have to look for guidance from that. So this is the matter, and neither too exhaustive nor too narrow. It's not too exhaustive also. It's not too narrow also. So on the one hand, it has left a very wide area of human activities to man's own rational judgment, where he can take decisions on the basis. In Quran, a lot of verses are there in which the Quran says that afala tafakkarun, afala tadabbarun, afala taqilun. Why don't you apply your rational? Why you are not applying your logic? Why you are not using your brain? So actually, the so in a lot of, I mean, there are few matters. The Quran is a small, I mean, not very big book. So a lot of matters, significant matters have been mentioned there, but a lot of other things have been left to the human judgment, human rationality, and using rational, using logic is uh, is a good thing. Quran encourages that, uh, but there are certain limits. There are certain boundaries where it's useless to apply logic and rational. So in those matters, our rational and logic is has limitations. For example, if we apply a lot of matters are there. So it has limitations. I mean, we cannot use logic and rational in every matter. Otherwise, everything, whether it is wrong or right, can be justified using logic. So a person who is doing wrong things, he can also come up with justification for the wrong thing, and so there won't be any. So there should be some broad guidelines that should be Uh, so on the one hand, it has left a very wide area of human activity to man's own rational judgment, where he can take decisions on the basis of his reason, assessment of the facts and experience. On the other hand, Islam has subjected human activities to a set of principles which have eternal application and cannot be violated on the superficial grounds of expediency based on human assessment. It is the firm belief of every Muslim that the commands given by the divine revelations to the last messenger are to be followed in letter and spirit, and cannot be violated or ignored on the basis of one's rational arguments or his or her inner desires. So we will be looking at the guidelines in Quran and Hadith regarding financial aspects of human life. That is why this course is the introduction to Islamic finance. The Islamic finance is all about making a financial transaction in a manner that should not clash with the commands of Quran and injunction of Quran and Hadith. So in secular capitalism, the profit motive and private ownership is given unbridled power. Their liberty is not controlled by the divine injunctions. If there are restrictions, then they are imposed by human beings through democratic legislation that change across geographies and legislations and over time. These legislations also change over time as well as over geographies. In some countries, the laws are different. In some other countries, the laws are different. So, but the laws that are mentioned in Quran are eternal. They cannot be changed based on time or based on any geography. So these are interest, gambling, speculative transactions tend to concentrate wealth in the hands of few. Immoral and injurious products, unbridled profit making creates monopolies which paralyze the market forces. A lot has been written on the negative aspects of the current financial system. At the root of that, all these wrong things that is happening in today's financial market. There is greed, there is gambling, there is interest, there is the factor of speculative transactions, speculations. So all these things, are not allowed in as per the Quran and Hadith. Sources of Sharia tenets. Sources. What is Islamic Sharia? Sharia. The meaning of Sharia is Islamic law or divine injunctions. Simply means Islamic law. Sharia means Islamic law. The literal meaning of this word Sharia is path, road, way. So this is the literal meaning of Sharia. If we look for the meaning of Sharia in dictionary, uh, the meaning of Sharia would be way, path, and road, like things like that. So, or another meaning, this is the literal meaning. The literal meaning is way, path, but it is used for Islamic law, the law that is derived from Quran and Hadith. Islamic law are divine injunctions that regulate the human beings in their individual and collective rights. The term Sharia refers to God's immutable divine law, primarily derived from Quran and Hadith. So primarily Sharia or Islamic law. Sharia means Islamic law is derived from Quran and Hadith. There are some other sources also, but these are two primary sources, Quran and Hadith. Quran is word of God and Hadith is sayings of the Prophet. Islamic Sharia is not the penal codes that we are accustomed to, and defining it that way would be a fundamental error on our part. Rather, Islamic Sharia is a complete way of life. It encompasses all aspects of a Muslim's life. So it's not only about law. Sharia is not only about law, but it's the overall guidance, overall, it covers in all aspects of our life. It's not only about law. These are some broad branches of Sharia. In addition to general rules, there are some specific branches of these injunctions which are there are uh, injunctions of Quran and Hadith regarding various aspects of our life. Some broad aspects of life, some broad aspects of Sharia are these four are some broad aspects of Sharia. The first one is Aqaid. Aqaid. All guidelines related with matters of belief. Belief. For example, the most important belief is Tawheed. And there are details to Tawheed. What is the meaning of Tawheed? So all guidelines, it's a very big branch of Sharia that has to do with what should be the belief, what is the correct belief, and what are wrong beliefs. So that branch of Sharia is known as Aqaid, in which is the plural of Aqidah. Aqidah is singular. Aqaid is the plural of Aqidah. So this is one important branch of Sharia. Another important branch of Sharia is Ibadat, worship and rituals. How we should pray, how we should perform Hajj, how we should do fasting. So these are or ibadat is a matter between humans and his or her creator. So it's between uh, hukukul hukukullah. And two broad classification of all these matters: hukukullah, hukukul ibadat. So ibadat has to do with hukukullah. This is between God and his creation. So there are guidelines related with this also. This is a very huge branch of Sharia which deals with how we should worship. What are the farais? What are mustahab? What are the sunnat in how we should pray? So which thing is important? Which is thing is not as much important? So there are guidelines related with ibadat. The third branch is muamalat. This is the third important branch of Sharia, which is muamalat. Muamalat means matters related to social relations, ruling, governing commercial transactions. Maashiyat is part of muamalat. Maashiyat or economics and financial transactions, how we should conduct business, how we should invest, how we should enter into financial contracts with other persons, how we should borrow, how we should lend, how we should produce something, how we should sell something, how should we buy something, what are the matters which are prohibited in buying and selling, what are wrong conducts in buying and selling, and matters related with the employment, matter related with the business. All these things come under this category, muamalat. Muamalat. And Islamic finance is also part of this third category of Sharia, that is Muamalat. So all Islamic guidelines, principles related with Muamalat are relevant in Islamic finance. So there are books which deal with this branch of Sharia, that is Muamalat. Um, the fourth branch of Sharia is akhlaqiyat. Akhlaqiyat, matters related with ethics and morality. Matters related with ethics and morality. So, uh, as the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "Bu'istu liutammima makarimal akhlaq." I have been sent on this earth to complete the ethics and morality, to complete the best of ethics and morality. وَعِزْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. So there are a lot of this in this branch of Sharia. The best conduct in every matter has been mentioned, related with everything, uh, related with ethics and morality. So this is the fourth branch of Sharia. Any question, any observation that you want to make, or any clarification that you want to seek on these four branches of Sharia? See, let me tell you one very general thing, that as far as the knowledge of aqaid is concerned, we we, we are way behind. We don't know actually the guidelines related with aqaid. We know some things related with ibadat. As far as the knowledge of ibadat is concerned, we know something. But as far as muamalat is concerned, the knowledge of muamalat is not very common. And uh, the uh, the knowledge, the guidelines related with muamalat, a lot of ignorance is there regarding this third branch of Sharia, that is muamalat. A Muslim has to follow the guidelines related with aqaid also, ibadat also, as well as muamalat and akhlaq also. So something he knows about Aqidah, something a normal Muslim knows about Ibadat. But as far as Muamalat and Akhlaqiyat is concerned, we know actually nothing. Even if we know something, we don't follow. So this is the something that I wanted to mention.
Excuse me, sir.
Okay, yes, Bilal. Speak.
Okay, so as you have said that our course will primarily focus on the Muamalat issues, but there are different fiqh schools in Islam. So which of the following are we going to follow?
There are basically four branches of fiqh. Uh, Fiqhul Muamalat. The largest one is Fiqh Hanafi, and there are the other branches of fiqh are Shafi'i, Maliki, and Hanbali. But as far as Fiqhul Muamalat is concerned, the largest literature on Muamalat has been uh, prepared, is more popular, and not only it's not only about popularity, but it has to do about the work of ijtihad has been done uh, in fiqh Hanafi. And the second, I mean, the details are available in the most of the details are available in fiqh, in Hanafi fiqh literature. Then comes the Shafi'i literature. And as far as Hanbali and Maliki fiqh is concerned, uh, as far as they are very strict in nature and they are not popular also, and they are there is not much literature, and they have not done much ijtihad. Ijtihad means derivation of rules and principles from Quran and Hadith. So they have so the much of the ijtihad has been done by Hanafi scholars or scholars Imam Abu Hanifa and the scholars that were inspired by Imam Abu Hanifa. So so we will mostly rely on Hanafi fiqh, but the reason is that most of the literature is available in Hanafi literature, and and there is a reason why Hanafi literature is so vast. One of the reason is that in the Umayyad dynasty rule, similarly in the golden period of Islam, uh, most of the qazi was a post which I mean, qazi means the chief justice. So chief justice were mostly Hanafi scholars. So they were dealing with some practical, real problems of that time of. I mean, whatever were the practical problems, they were dealing with those practical problems. So they came up with solutions. They came up with about the guidelines regarding those matters. They searched for the solution in Quran and Hadith. So that is why they prepared. They did a lot of research. As far as the other branches of fiqh is concerned, they were never in ruling. You know, they were not appointed as qazis. So this is one reason why fiqh, the Hanafi fiqh is so popular and so vast, and there are guidelines available in fiqh Hanafi literature. That is one thing. I mean, but as far as the Sharia is concerned, the two primary sources are Quran and Hadith. Quran and Hadith. And as I have mentioned, that Quran focuses on the use of logic, on the use of rational. So every one of us, if we are sincere enough, if we are interested enough, we can do research. We can to derive rules from Quran and Hadith regarding different matters. So the literature, the fiqh literature is not a divine literature because it's a research. It's research done by human beings. What was the purpose of the research? The purpose of the research was to derive rules from Quran and Hadith. This was their purpose. Something which has not been mentioned in Quran and Hadith directly, but some, there is confusion. What is the guideline of Quran and Hadith in this matter? So they are looking in Quran and Hadith to, come up with some solution, to come up with some guideline regarding that matter. So this process is known as ijtihad. So as far as ijtihad is concerned, anybody who possesses enough knowledge of Quran and Hadith and he is capable of conducting research, so he can conduct research. So it's not basically about any branch of fiqh, that is Shafi'i, Hanafi. It's a very useful literature. Hanafi fiqh literature is very useful. Shafi'i fiqh literature is very useful. But we should understand their importance in the hierarchy. Quran is the most important. Hadith is the next most important source of Sharia. And fiqh, as far as fiqh is concerned, fiqh is a derived body of knowledge. Derived. People applied their logic, people applied their mind, and they came up with guidelines using several methods that we will discuss later on. So it's not about any specific branch of fiqh. It's about going to the roots, going to the original sources, and looking for guidelines. Is any clarification, query?
Sir, as far as I know that most of the Islamic banks are saturated in the Middle East.
Bilal Khan. Okay, yes, Bilal, you have written Imam Abu Hanifa himself put down the offer to be Qazi during Umayyad period. Yes, you are correct. He was offered the post of Qazi, but he did not take. But his student Imam Abu Yusuf, he took up the post.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I have a question.
Yes.
Sir, as most of the Islamic banks are saturated in the Middle Eastern region, and the primary belief of fiqh there in Middle East is not based on Hanafi method, so is that gonna impact our job prospect?
Bilal, actually, there is not much difference between Hanafi and Shafi'i fiqh. There is not much difference. As far as the basic prohibitions are concerned, it's same. It's same. There are differences, but those differences can be termed as minor difference of opinion, and every opinion is acceptable. If the opinion of Imam Shafi is also acceptable, the opinion of Imam Hanbali is also, uh, you know, is we can practice on that. So it's not about the difference is not about basics. The difference is about minute aspects, and if we apply logic and rational, those differences will naturally occur in every matter, in every field. For example, economics. Economics is a branch of study. Is there anyone here who has done graduation in economics, BA economics? Anyone is here? Okay, so the point that I want to make is that economics is a very broad, a field of knowledge. Till today, there is no single definition of economics on which all economists agree. Leave alone the all other small details about economics. There are different laws. I mean, it's a very broad area of knowledge. But simply because differences exist between different economists, it does not mean that it's a handicap or it's something negative or it should not develop or be. So, so differences are natural. I mean, I'm just giving you one example. That there is no unanimous agreement on the definition of economics itself. What is economics? There are tens and twenties of definitions in different books. There's no unanimous agreement. So differences are, natural to occur, but those differences or opinions are very minute, and as far as the basics and broad features are concerned, they are all are same. In fact, let me tell you one very interesting thing. Recently, I read a book, uh, The Prophet's Piety. The name of the author of the book is Ayman Rida. So I was surprised to know that there are two basic broad branches of Muslims. Uh, this may be interesting for Aditya. Sunni and Shia. All over the world, this is two broad branches of Muslims. As far as Islamic finance is concerned, there is almost no difference on these matters between Shia and Sunni. On Islamic finance matter, they agree, but I mean they are in agreement with most of the matters as far as Islamic finance is concerned. So this is very interesting thing, and so non-agreement or difference of opinion between scholars. See, any field, take any field, there will be difference of opinion. Take any field. So that should not remain in our mind as a confusion. Or okay, any other comment, observation? Okay, thank you very much for joining this class. We will continue in the next session.